Ever since Little Devil Inside got announced, I've been super hyped for this game, and trying to get some news for it has been hard at times, with the devs being pretty quiet, only releasing a few tech demos over the years and a brand new couple trailers in the last year. But one dropped yesterday, so I thought it's about time we do 10 things you need to know about this game, and particularly if you love the idea of a Monster Hunter style game mixed in with proper survival with Breath of the Wild, then I think you're going to really enjoy Little Devil Inside. So leave a like, make sure to subscribe for the best in crafting, survival, farming and gaming guides news, and go and check out my main survival channel JADE-PG for more in-depth analysis including a breakdown of the latest trailer. But let's go on now with 10 things you need to know about Little Devil Inside. In 2015, out of nowhere, NeoStream popped up this trailer combining cinematics with some tech demo gameplay. The game art looked very unique, very different, very minimalistic, very artsy and blocky. But obviously that was 6 years ago, so what's been happening? Why has it taken so long for this game to release? Well, it was made by a studio comprising of around 12 people when they first started. Alongside this trailer, they launched a Kickstarter program which raised over $300,000 nearly, including stretch goals to release the game on the Wii U as well as all the other major platforms. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to work out that it's probably not going to release on the Wii U, but indeed it has got plans to release on the Switch in the future. So back in 2017 they announced that they would be releasing the game in 2018, but they hit some snags. They decided to scope and flesh out the game even more, make it bigger, and in doing so it seems like they struck up that exclusivity deal with PlayStation. So the plot or the story is all about you being a Monster Hunter style character called Billy. You will be running around a world taking on all sorts of supernatural entities and creatures in helping your professor gain research and knowledge. He's also got a butler that will help you, assist you, and you'll meet a plethora of NPCs that you'll be able to gain not only items and info from, but maybe also help them out in their everyday mundane lives. The end goal is that you have researched enough about the monsters, creatures and weird phenomenon that's going around the world to eventually have a full encyclopedia of all phenomenal existence. It's set in 19th century Victorian style setting with loads of steampunk, but it is kind of meant to be in a surrealistic, unrealistic world, somewhere maybe in purgatory between heaven and hell. As I mentioned earlier, you've got a professor who is called Vincent and his colleague Dr. Oliver, which does look to me very much like a butler, but apparently not. He's got a bit more status. Looks like you'll be proving your worth to the professor and his associates while gathering all of this information. So it is going to be a single player and cooperative multiplayer game. They've also promised that it will be local co-op play, so you should be able to play on the same screen with other players. Now it hasn't been finalised just yet, although we do kind of get the information that it is going to be all within the same mission rather than maybe separate game modes. We haven't heard as much about that in recent years, so keep that under your lid. Things may have slightly changed. But with 3 characters mostly on screen at most of the time, you can envision that it would be fairly easy for them to implement full co-op play. Not only that, there may be an online component too, that you may encounter other players while roaming around the world. But take that again with a pinch of salt, as we haven't seen anything else further explained about these details, and I don't want to pull a No Man's Sky here and say a guarantee you'll see your friends. So they want this game to be an action adventure game with light survival elements. You will need to make sure you've got water to drink and food to eat, but it might not necessarily take up your whole day doing so. And in that strength, you may not necessarily die just because you run out, but it might affect your stamina or your healing abilities. Then chuck in that Monster Hunter vibe where you're going up against a bunch of different creatures, but more often than not coming across a big giant one like this dragon, and you get the idea that you're going to have to prepare a lot for these encounters. There is going to be an element of roguelike in the game as well, that when you die you may have to restart that character again and hopefully pick up some of your loot, but you may have lost a bit of progress, and so you definitely are going to have to relearn certain things, or maybe approach different encounters in different ways, or prep in a better way. And I guess that leans into that Monster Hunter approach even more in that respect. Hopefully it's not going to be as monotonous. It's one of the big problems I had with Monster Hunter World, why I never really got into it. I just found that taking on the same batch of monsters every single time just didn't really lend itself to what I found enjoyable, and I found the stages were just too small and didn't have enough variety in them in terms of things that could happen. But if Little Devil Inside can put it off with them survival mechanics and some of that action adventure stuff with a big hefty dose of story added to it as well, then I think it's got a good chance of succeeding. There will be no base building in this game. You can set up rudimentary camps by the looks of things or find stoves that you'll be able to prep food, but you will have hub areas that you'll be able to go and sort yourself out before the next encounter. And speaking of that preparation, you're going to be doing that quite a bit in terms of crafting and making stuff with the resources you've gathered or looted. Again, from these alpha footage gameplay videos that you've seen, which are a good few years old now, so probably ignore the UI screen, but some things have remained, like the inventory system, and it's important to talk about that as well as the looting system. You have got limited space in your backpack, so you're going to have to be careful. There is a weight system also, and it looks likely you're going to be doing a lot of looting and gathering from buildings, chests, and all sorts of hidden holes. Deciding what you actually need there and then and what's going to help you on that particular mission is going to be as important as gathering just basic resources and finding the creatures themselves. It does look like preparation is going to be really key, concocting different types of meals together from some of the raw components you've got together, or whether or not it's making sure that all your armour is repaired or you've got enough of the particular ammo to take on a certain creature or certain style weapon. There is going to be a big choice in armours, and certain armours are going to be needed to get through the environmental dangers like snow, ice, needing a big warmer coat, and possibly deep sea diving suits to explore the fully dark depths. So armour and clothing is going to be pretty vital, as is the choice of weapons. There is going to be firearms in the game as well as a healthy choice in melee weapons. With 2 separate hand slots you'll be able to carry a sword or shield, or possibly even dual wield 2 weapons at once, or even just hold a torch and a sword. And you can see in the combat here, it looks pretty decent to me. I kind of like it. It's fairly basic, but it does the job, and you are taking out enemies in a variety of different moves. One of the big ways is to impale an enemy and swing him around and use him as extra battering ram against others. So while it looks pretty rudimentary, I think there is going to be some of that moments where you'll be taking on a giant creature, trying to work out exactly how to clamber on top of him maybe to take him down, just like it is in Monster Hunter World, or like I said, using certain tools and resources to call them forth and do battle with them. Add to that mounted combat also, when you'll be able to ride on top of a donkey but fire off your gun at the same time, and it definitely looks like it's got a big wide range of playability in terms of the combat and taking on different enemies. Picking up new armour or weapons from NPCs that you're going to meet is definitely what you're going to need to prepare for certain sections and enemies. Now when you come across these NPCs, it's a bit different in the way they traverse the world. It's kind of like a traditional RPG game, Japanese one influenced, where you run around a world and then stop off at different destinations, complete missions, take on battles. And that looks much to be the same in this game, although it does suggest that you will be able to stop off almost at any point and possibly have random encounters that you might not have had if you just kept on rolling by. The means of traversal around the game look to be huge, not only involving trains, trams, mini trawlers that you hope you won't be chundering over the side in the storm, to maybe having a bit of a chill in your submarine while you do a bit of fishing. Even sand dune buggies, these all look to be different ways that you'll get upgrades, or you can go ahead and use a lot of the animals and creatures to help you travel. With one of the main ones being a donkey that might have a bit of trouble in snow environments like these Rocky Mountains, but it'll actually zip around when it's got some sand underneath its hooves. So yeah, maybe picking and choosing or finding different means to get across the landscapes is going to be just as important as taking on the monsters themselves. And lastly, climbing looks to be an important feature of the game, as you'll be able to climb a bunch of different types of surfaces and special sections in the story. There might also even be pets that you can keep as well. It shows a part of a mission or part of the story, gathering a pickup, but not only that, you can actually put it inside your inventory once you get it to safety. So can you pull that pig out to be bait for other creatures later on in the game, or is it going to be something that you'll use purely just for these one story moments? This simple clip from one of the gameplay trailers shows the pig coming back to you and you honking it inside your backpack. So yeah, pets could be a possibility. The biomes look amazing. They're really colour toned or done in such a certain way that you obviously know you're in a certain situation where you're going to need warmth, or you're going to be needing water, or there's going to be certain dangerous creatures around just by the landscape. But it does look really cool and interesting how you'll be evolving and going through these areas, upgrading, finding loot to get you through before you succumb to maybe the temperature effects. Abandoned shacks in mountains that you'll come across, to caves that you'll be able to cook up vital foods before taking on big enormous enemies. I really love the idea that you've got to prepare correctly, not just to find a monster's weakness, but to also really make sure you've got the right tools to succeed. with each and every single biome offering some sort of difference in the enemy types that you're coming across as well, like these black tar-like creatures in this snow environment too. Huge underwater sections, open sea where you'll be doing lots of fishing, to burning cliff tops that remind me a lot of dark desolate places in Dark Souls. The different biomes have got such a richness and atmosphere about them, I can't wait to explore. Which I guess leaves me nicely onto the creatures and the mobs that you'll be facing. Such a huge choice, whether or not you'll be running away from wolf-like creatures or enticing a big bear to stand still and get a shot, or coming against big huge cats. Seems like the game is filled with these mega event monsters and creatures that you'll face off against, alongside smaller minions that you're going to have to maybe carve out to get resources from, or just have something to do while you're exploring and investigating some of the smaller parts. And of course, as I mentioned before, dragons. If this game hasn't been on your radar up until now, then absolutely make sure it is. Go and check it out on the PlayStation blog site. Go and take a look at the analysis of the latest brand new trailer launched recently. You can find that on my main survival channel, JADE-PG, and I'll be back for more info with more guides, tutorials and news about this game when it launches, and of course any news before that, obviously about the release dates. Until then, I'll catch you later.